Let's Talk Tunnelling is produced by XRJV and proudly sponsored by DC Adams Group. Why safety matters.
Yeah, so cheers anyway.
Yep. Cheers, bro.
Oh, welcome to Let's Talk Tunnelling. My name's Dallas Adams. I'm the host, and today's guest is Kopu Tutu. Kia ora, Kopu.
Kia ora, bro.
So, you're 26 years in underground mining, tunnelling and construction throughout Australia and New Zealand. Contract handheld mining, production drill and blast mining, roadheader tunnels, TBM tunnel, underground coal, and you've also worked in copper and lead smelters, gold mills and oil refineries. And you're also an active member, or you've been an active member of the Underground Mines Rescue and Rope Rescue team. So massive experience over 26 years, eh?
Yeah. Bloody making me feel old. Yeah. But it still seems like yesterday, actually. Yeah. Well, firstly, I'd like to just thank you, bro, for inviting me on here. I feel honoured and privileged. You know, I've watched a few of the other podcasts, and man, you've certainly had a few legends in there, and you know, it's just a privilege to be able to share my knowledge and my experience. And I probably, you know, we've all got similar stories with underground. But I never knew that I was going to be a tunneler or a miner. You know, I had a love for the sea at the start. You know, when I first left school, I done a Māori trade training course, fishing. So it was my first time out of Wairoa. That's where I was brought up, Wairoa Mohaka Mahia. That's my rohe. So, you know, I ended up down the South Island in Nelson, fishing school down there, and it was real shock, real culture shock. Sort of when I first arrived there, I was sort of looking around for the old cuzzy bros. There wasn't too many around, so that was, 17 years old, straight out of school, and then straight down there was real wake up call, and time to grow up. And I got into fishing at a really good time. That's when Orange Ruffy, Hoki, Bluefin tuna was all first being landed by New Zealand boats, and so I was a part of that. And you're working with real men, and when you're out on the fishing boats, like as we were cadets, so we used to do 8 weeks at sea and then 6 weeks back on land. So you had to learn pretty quick. You was no mucking around. When you're out on the deck, big seas, daylight till dark, and you soon grow up pretty quick. And then you come in, you unload, you sort of got about 24 hours. You're on shore, and then you're back out again. So it sort of probably paved the way for me and taught me a lot of good work ethics, and learning how to adapt and just get on with things. And I met a lot of good guys. Hard but fair. And no time to whinge or moan about things. You just had to do it. So and teaches you a lot of things. Makes you appreciate a lot of things. And now that I look back on things, so yeah. And then I got sick of the sea because I didn't like the way. I probably wouldn't say sick of it, but I just didn't like the way we were the fishing. It just seemed like there was no real skill in it because of the technology and the amount of fish that was around. We were just like for instance, the Hoki. When we were on the Hoki, we had a spot down off the west coast called the Hokitika Trench. It was 5 k's long and 1 kilometre wide, and we were fishing on trawlers like 120, 140 meters long, and we were all queuing up behind each other, and we'd just trawl through that same trench continuous for 6 weeks, and our nets would just pop to the surface. So our nets would be probably 40, 50 meters long, probably 6 meters in diameter. You could walk from the back of the boat right to the back of the cod end. That's how chocker the nets were, and they just pop to the surface. And then you get the bluefin tuna hanging around, eating all the fish coming out, and then like the bluefin tuna was like they bigger than dolphins, but back then that was just a normal day, you know. And now you sort of it's starting to get more scarce because it's all been overfished, and you know people are going deeper. But we used to just chuck a line over the side and pull in one, and that was our piss money. Or we'd pull in about 3 or 4 for the trip, and we get about $600-700. But if we wanted, if we would have done the right thing and pulled it in properly, we probably got about 5 or 6 grand. But hey, just another fish to us back then. So yeah. But yeah, well, that sort of paved the way for me, and then I come over to Australia, went straight to the Outbacks, out to a place called Boulia, went out there sharing with my older brother, done a season there, and then I ended up in Mount Isa. That's where all my mining experience started. Started in a lead smelter on a research and development plant, and that was an eye-opener. Because, you had graduates, young university graduates that been to uni for about 5-6 years, and they knew it all. And we had this plant that they used to do all their little experiments with, and we were their little guinea pigs running around, But tapping lead and slag, because what they were trying to achieve was build a lead smelter that could do away with a majority of the guys and still produce the same. So I think our plant, we had about 4 people running it. So those 4 people could replace like 50 people, and yeah, it was fun and games. We had a big furnace, and we had lead and slag in there that was running between 900 and 1100 degrees. And you get the mixes wrong, different things wrong. It ends up being like a big volcano foaming out over the top, and then you're on the top there where the feed chute that used to feed all the feed in, and you'd have to keep it. You got it's like molten lava popping out, and then you're in there with a bloody crowbar trying to keep it clean and not get burnt. We sort of as you do, you get a bit cunning and start making up things. Your old man is just a classic, or to try and protect yourself and look after yourself. So yeah, and then from there I ended up because I played a bit of rugby up there. Through rugby, I ended up getting underground and went in what they call the MICAF in Mount Isa. So MICAF was Mount Isa cut and fill. So it was air legging drive. Was all contract. So that was about 85, 86. And man, it was awesome job. 8-hour shifts, 5 days a week. You had the option of, like, we started night, finish Friday morning, but you had the option of doing overtime on a Friday night or Saturday. But it was good, that's when Mount Isa was pumping, it was thriving, everyone could play sport, and it was good. Like the league, rugby, Mount Isa was just, always has been a really good town for sportsmen, and getting behind that. And it was when I was there, it was 55 different nationalities. On the level I started on, which was level 13, 14, it was sort of about halfway up. I think at that stage it was down to about 20, 22, 23. And there's about 100 meters between each level. We used to catch a cage down. It's like 2 containers. Like they could squeeze 180 people. Well, they said 180, but I think it was more like 300 blokes that squeeze in the array. Like I used to get there early so I could get up against the wall, because if you got there late, the late guys were trying to shuffle their way in, and the platman would just come in and just shunt you in and just quickly shut the door before everyone swells out. Yeah. And then, you go down, zoom down in the old cage. All you see is just lights whizzing past, the different levels you go past. And 17 level was the main level, and then down to a couple others, and then we'd come back up to our level. So in an 8-hour shift, the goal was to get a 4 meter cut. We used to bolt drill and blast. So with cut and fill, you're working up the muck pile. And in Mount Isa, it's got what they call shanty backs. So your roof's on an angle. So you've got a hanging wall, which is the high side, and then the footwall, which is the low side. So when you're working off the muck, when you come to blast, you have to get your muck pile flat, so that you've got a flat surface to work on. Otherwise, you've got to use a blowpipe, to blow it all off. And man, that's for me, that was like the real McCoy, real mining. It taught me heaps. You felt good at the end of the day, because you probably only had about 5.5 hours to do that whole cycle, and you got 2 other crews that are following you, and so everyone has to pull their weight, because if you fuck up, well, it affects everyone's pay. So you don't last long if you haven't got the goods. You're gone, and you had to earn your spot to get there. So I just started out as a nipper. So we'd get down there. All the boys would jump on what we had called foxes, like just open cab buddy articulated units that would carry about 10 blokes. Then you go and deliver them to their contracts, come back, and then in the crib room they'd have a list of gear they needed. So you went to the store. We had a big underground store there. Got all their consumables, like their bolts, their plates, their mesh, their steels. What else did we have there? Oh, yeah, bit of everything. Then you'd have to go and deliver to their contracts. So I used to go try and do it as quick as I can, because then you had a bit of free time before you'd have to pick them up and take them back to Smoko, because we only had 1 break a day, and that was our crib time, and that's when the whole mine blasted. So everyone throughout the whole mine had to be back in their crib rooms and then to ring in. One person was not accounted for, to shut the whole mine down, So you didn't want to be that person. I think it was a week off for the first time, and then the second time you're down the road. So yeah, but I sort of learned straight away, follow who the good fellas are. You sort of see who gets the most gear, because they've obviously got the bigger ore bodies to work in. And so I used to get all my jobs done and go up to the guys, because see what they were doing. And then, like anything, everyone's got their own little tricks. And when you're on contract day, you're always finding the best and quickest way to do things. And so it was good being a nipper, because you could go around and work on all the different contracts and work with all the different miners and suss it out. And then, when you're there I was probably there for about 4 months, and then it's up to the miners to see, and the shipper to put the next fellas through, as a trainee miner or air legger on that level. And so they'd chuck you in for the day. If someone was away, they'll chuck you on that contract for the day, just to learn and, and do a whole cycle. So it was good, you weren't just chucked straight in the deep end. You done a day here, a day there, and it was good because it boosted your pay as well, because you're on contract rates, So you got paid for everything you've done. You got paid for, because you've done all your own services, your firing line, your bolting and meshing, and your advance. So the key there was to set up your cross shift, which still applies today. Just basic, simple. Look after your cross shift, and everyone's happy, and everyone makes money. And it was good, as we started getting closer to the next level, like the ground started opening up, and fuck, you'd be up there drilling, and all I hear is a big shotgun, man, it sounded like a shotgun going off. You think, wow. And all you see here is all your bolts and plates pinging, and then you see a big crack open up, and you just, oh yeah, okay, we'll just carry on. Nothing happened. Yeah, nah, but it's hard to beat having that rock in your face. You're there, it's in your face, and it teaches you, to respect what's around you. And like I've heard with a few of the other speakers, you know, when you go underground, you always look up, You're always looking up for any changes, and, you know, just all the little things, just those little things, which we don't seem to do nowadays, I suppose, not so much in TBM tunnels, but I've noticed with the roadheader tunnels, you know, a lot of the young fellas aren't sort of taught that anymore, or sort of realise, you know, it's just all those little things, and, you know, just a little trickle of rock in the mesh and stuff. I remember when I was in Waihi, I was going into rehab area on a bolter, single boom bolter, and like all of the mesh was full of rock. You know, it was all bloody sagging down. It was ready to fall out. So my job was to go in there, cut it all out, and then put new mesh and bolts up. So get in there, you know, you sort of check it out, have a look, see where all your gear is, get it all laid out, so that you're not mucking around. Because, you know, when you're in those sort of conditions, you know, you don't want to be caught out, you know, and you're always thinking ahead if something goes wrong. Right, okay, what's my backup? Well, you know, where I'm going to go, or what's there, or, you know. So yeah, this particular day, I get in there, get all my gear ready, and I cut the mesh off, and it just, you know, you get that feeling, and I go to put up my first mesh, my first bolt in, and I bring my boom down, come over, because I had to put a bolt on each time, you know, so pull it to the side, and when I was pulling it down, I pulled it to the side, it just, you know, had this feeling. I thought, nah, I'll just wait, and then I sort of hesitated for a while, and then I just seen this trickle away, and I thought, fuck, you know, something's going on here. In the next minute, the old, because I had the boom up like that, and then it just, all I remember seeing was just the light went out. It was just big shadows, and then rocks coming down my boom. So all I had time was to just sort of, because all open cabs, you know, time to drop on the floor, you know, and just wait for it to happen. And then it all happened. Trying to start I just started jumbo up and just dragged it out as far as I could. So, you know, the boom was fucked. It was all on the ground. My jacks, I couldn't get my jacks up, but I still managed to sort of get it out and to sort of away from where, if it did collapse more. So, yeah. And then just walked out to the end of the drive and just sat out on the decline, and then called up my ship boss, you know. And so, you know, it's things like that sort of remind you that, you know, you're dealing with rock, you're dealing with nature. So, you know, anything can happen at any time. But big learning curve, and Waihi was a place for that. You know, it was, the ground there could change at any time. So when you jumped on the jumbo there, you had to know at least 3 different cuts. You know, whereas here in Australia, you know, the ground's pretty consistent, so you can just do the same cut all the time. But there, it was you had to be able to read the ground and know what's going on, and, you know, take note on your previous round, you know, how it pulled, you know, your spacings and all that, you know. And that was a really good place to learn, because we had small crews, so you had to be on the ball. You know, there's no deadwood, and you always worked on your own. And it was quite funny when we started. When I started, there was like a 3 days on, 3 days off roster, and what they wanted was, they didn't want anyone with any experience, because they didn't want to bring in any bad habits. So we had an American ship boss, we had a Canadian ship boss, we had an Aussie ship boss, and we had a Kiwi ship boss. Fuck, and they were all the best. They all reckon they were the number one. So, you know, it's just underground. You just got this natural competitiveness, and hard case. Yeah. And so those fellas that come into that mine, man, a lot of those fellas that are still in the business today are like right up there, eh? Right up there, because of the small mine we had, the things that we done and accomplished. Like, it would be pretty hard to beat, eh? Like, in the end, it got shut down because we run run out of room in a tailings dam, and there's still a lot of gold there. We still didn't get to the mother lode. There's still a lot of ore that we left on the ground. We just kept mucking out till we filled the tailings dam up, and met some great people there, like Neil Berg, Wayne Greenie, Murray Peel, Peter Farr, those fellas, they're all legends. Those fellas come through and they done this drive, man. Like, it was probably, because our tailings dam was moving, so we had to drill up we'd do this drive and then put holes up to try and stop it from sliding, drain all the water off. So that's where Greenie and Peter Farr and them all come in, and Murray and them, because they were old school, they had the guns, They come in, man, and the drive started off probably at about 7 meters, and it was all timber. They were doing timber sets, and the timbers were like 10 by 10s, and the ground was just snapping them like matchsticks, and then they end up coming down to like 3 meter sets, because the ground just kept squeezing in. And I thought, far out, those fellas, and watching those fellas work is like, you don't see that anymore, especially timbering. I was, privileged to be able to see all that and be with those guys, and because down I'd done our decline there before I got there, so that's all your old mans, all that, like Andy and all those guys. I think they were all up there, So I'm the next generation after those blokes, and it's always great to listen to. It was good to listen to Andy and Nigel and all those fellas, and I remember talking with the old man when we were up in Crichton, Redpath would be out there, everyone else would be out doing their thing, and we'd be just, reminiscing about our days, and, just so good to be able to talk to someone that's done the real thing, because, there's not too many of us left. But yeah, now I'm in tunnelling. It's a bit tamer than the old hard rock, but no, it's good. Same thing. It's I think we're going through the change of guard now. We have probably about the last 6-7 years. It's a new generation coming through. Techniques are changed, designs are changing, workplace is changing, sort of making it harder to do the job. It's sort of taking away that challenge, and people able to think and work things out for themselves. But it's all about being aware and alert. It's I think the way we're doing things now, it's taking a lot of that stuff away from the guys, And I think we can improve in a lot of areas with training and mentoring the guys coming through, because everyone's got something to offer, and it's a pity you sort of see guys that have got it, but they've just because of the system they aren't able to shine, or we're not enhancing all those things that they bring. So yeah, and then you see others that haven't got it, but they seem to get that step further. So, but it's probably up to us that have been around a while now. We need to step up and start taking a bit more control. And it's a bit hard in tunnelling because it's a transient job. You only do one and then you're on to the next one. And I can sort of understand, with the training side of thing, where a lot of companies don't want to be spending too much because they're going to lose those guys. So I think that's a big area where we can improve, and that's one area that I'm keen to get into. It's probably the system I learned at the Golden Cross in Waihi. That's probably helped me in a big way, because we done everything there. It was good, but and having, even though we had 4 different shift bosses, and they all swore they were the best, they all taught us all different things as well. Yeah.
So the tunnelling side was, what was your first tunnelling job when it came to getting, was it the Sydney job that I met you in, or were you before that?
Nah, it was in Brisbane with Peabody's. It was the Busway Tunnel and Breakfast Creek sewer. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I was my project manager there was a guy called Steve Burton, and Shane Wilmord was there. He was my shift boss actually. Yeah, well, he'd probably remember me pretty well from back then because it was me and the old bro Neil Berg. Well, we both come over from Waihi, and well, we were doing nib walls and shutters. So me and him had the gig on night shift to sort of do all the set the shutters up. So we were doing all of the bolting. It was all air leg bolting, propping them up, and fuck, there was this one night because what we used to try and set up day shift. So all day shift had to do was pour, you know, and strip, and then we could carry on, move shutters and set them up. And we had to drill bolts in the bottom of the shutters, and like we had a trench, and some of the bolts got pretty low, like it's too awkward to use the leg. So this one night, me and him were behind, and we didn't stop for smoko because the cycle was getting behind. So I thought, oh, bugger it, you know, it was a prick of a place to drill. So I thought, oh, I'll just take the leg off and I'll just drill backwards, you know, push the machine in backwards, and the bloody steel snapped, and what was left in the chuck hit the bloody hit the shutter, bounced off, and then of all places to go, it missed the steel cap on my gumboot and then went into my foot. And like we had about 2 hours of the shift left, and I think my missus and kids were coming that day or the next day, and I bloody ended up in hospital. Bloody, yeah, bung leg, bloody put the rock jaw through my foot. Yeah, welcome to Australia. Yeah. The sewer tunnel, I done a shaft there, and there was Obayashi Peabody. There's Glenn Maynard, he was the super there. And then from there, I ended up going back home because the kids got homesick and that, so we went back. So I ended up going back to Waihi and hooking back up with my mate there. He started his company there, and it was good. It was like we done a lot of the work for the Martha Mine, Waihi Gold. Well, it was Waihi Gold back then. So we used to do all the tricky work, Like we used to do all the rock bolting and meshing, and we done a lot of environmental work, and then we used to move all the drill rigs around because there was a lot of exploration going on, and that exploration actually is what led to the mine that's there now, with the Favona ore body. That all come about from where we were doing all this drilling and stuff. But it was a grouse job, Like one day we'd be down in the open pit, up in bloody EWPs, bloody rock bolting and strapping and meshing, and then we'd be on the up in the pit drilling and installing cable bolts and grouting. And then we decided, because some of the areas in the pit was a bit unstable, so we come up with this drill. We designed this drill that you could pin on the side of a face or on the side of a cliff, and drill and blast, and to also rock bolt stabilize any areas. So we got a couple of gigs. What brought it about? There was a job we had down south, down in Cromwell, in between Cromwell and Alexandra, in the Nevis Bluff. You know, it's always sort of been a area where there's been slips, and they had one big slip there where it blocked off the road there, just in the gorge. So the first time it happened, some bright spark decided to come up with, because there was a lot of open ground there that was ready to come down, and so they dropped the big cargo net full of explosives on top. And if anyone knows anything about explosives, what the old air blast does, you know, well, it moved everything else but the rock, stripped all the trees up the gorge and set off the Clyde Dam alarms, and so it actually opened up more areas that gave us. We ended up going there and putting in a tender for it. And so what we ended up doing, we were going down there and we'd start at the top and we'd abseil down, and we'd set up our drill. All it was just a SIG machine with a retractable leg, and we just had acro prop on it, so you could set it at any angle you wanted and just anchored it to the ground. And we were drilling like 35-meter holes, so we'd work for 20 minutes, and then we'd stop for 20 minutes to let the cars through, and then it was like that, And bloody hell, Cromwell, because the face we were working on was sort of all north facing, so we had a window of 6 weeks between November and December. We used to go down there, and so you've got the sun on your back, and just the glare off the rock, and the ground down there is all schist, it's like wheat picks. So we're drilling through that, and daylight till dark, drilling 30-meter holes, and so I've got some really good footage of us like blasting it off, and then we go down, and we get a chopper cut used to come in, and then just drop buckets of water down, because you've got the river there, and wash it all down, and we'll scale it all down. And we done that. I was back there for 2 years, so I went down there for 2 years, and then the second year we were down there, we were on our way home, and we were just going through Wairau, and then we got the call up. That's when they had that collapse at Sinkhole and Martha and Waihi, and then that's where all these houses fell in the hole there. There was 2 houses that fell in. There's a couple that were just hanging over the hole. So we were a mine rescue. So we got there, and they'd sort of there was one house that fell in the hole, and there was 3 kids in the house. They managed to get them all out okay, and then there was a couple still hanging over the hole. And so it was the first week of December, and I remember we got up there, we had our briefing on what was going on, and there was an old couple that had their house hanging over the hole, and we sort of got a plan together, and we thought, okay, we'll go in and we'll see what we can recover for them, because they said, we've got all our muckles Christmas presents and stuff in there. We wouldn't mind getting those. And then the only other 2 things they wanted was their reading glasses and their false teeth. So, so their room was hanging right over the hallway. We just used a telehandler. We cut a hole out in the wall that was on good ground, and we on ropes, and we went in. 2 fellas first went in and just sort of checked, see how stable it was, and then we found the glasses and the false teeth. We bought those out, and then we saw all their presents, so we bought all the presents out, and then we started slowly removing all their furniture and stuff. And then they had this old pianola, far out, and it was heavy. So we managed to get that on a pallet and lifted that out. And then the old bloke says, you fellas look like you're drinkers. I've got a bit of a still out the back there. You mind going out the back there and seeing what's left in there? So, yeah, okay. So we get out there, and we had about 3 crates of flagons, and it was like clear water. It was like moonshine. And so he gave us a flagon, and there was how many? There was about 14 of us in the mine rescue, and I think we must have drunk probably about that much of the flagon, and it was like drinking petrol. Far out, like you burp and the fumes come up. Yeah, funny, but yeah. Waihi. I got a lot of time for Waihi. Yeah, most of my kids were born there, so yeah, and it's still pumping. Yep, yeah. Look for some gear, and far out, it was like heaven for us, because it was rail, there's fans, and shit.